Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, whenever you are. Welcome to a new Breakout Solutions live stream. I'm your host today, Matthew Batiri, because Wasim is unfortunately away, but that's okay. The show must continue, and hopefully you guys watching are going to enjoy today's stream. So we're going to discuss a lot of things. There's lots of new news in the cryptoverse. We also have the potential of World War III on the brink of occurring because of China and Russia's new relationship. The US dollar obviously collapsing, and the US government obviously running around like headless chooks, trying to figure out how can they save their economy and how can they obviously save themselves from being the #1 superpower and continue with their world domination. So thank you very much for watching. If this is the first time you're watching, please like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications to our channel. We come to you live every single day, Monday to Friday, with educational content on the weekend. All right, so without further ado, let's jump in to the first article that we have for today. So Van Eck CEO predicts bull run cycle for Bitcoin and gold, expects Fed tightening to end soon. So he said in an interview, and this is obviously the CEO, which his name is Jan Van Eck. So he said in an interview, we are at the very beginning of what could be a several years cycle in gold, and also puts Bitcoin in that category as well. So if you don't know much about obviously Van Eck, they hold $69 billion worth of assets under management. So they're no small player in the game. They're obviously a big player, a bit like ARK Invest and Kathy Woods. You really want to pay attention to these huge hedge funds. Where are they putting and parking their assets? And most importantly, what are they saying in regards to Bitcoin, gold, and the current economic and political climate? So, excuse me. He also said, finally, as a gold investor, you've been rewarded over the last couple of weeks. Weakness in the banking system and gold has rallied. So last month, Pantera Capital said that they were already in the next bull cycle for Bitcoin. And last week, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 25 basis points. Some people expect the Fed to cut rates soon, including billionaire Jeff Gundlach. However, Fed Chair Jerome Powell stated that rate cuts are not in the Fed's base case. Economist Peter Schiff, more like a gold bug. But anyways, Peter Schiff said that the Fed already returned to quantitative easing, whether they admit it or not. And what he means by that is basically they're going out there, they're saying that they're going to back all people's money that are invested in banks, because obviously all these banks are collapsing. So if banks collapse, you can't get your money. But the US government is saying that they're going to come in, rescue these people. And in order to do that, they need to print money, because there's not enough dollars in circulation to actually have a one-to-one backing of what is stipulated on your bank. So the numbers you see in your bank, banks probably actually don't hold that. They do fractional reserve banking, which means they don't actually have enough cash on hand. If everyone was to withdraw their cash that they see on their phones when you do your online banking, that means that's what causes bank runs. People trying to take out cash that is not actually there. So look, I think we have commenced the next bull cycle, and even though we're in a bear market, the bull cycle just means that we've started the upward trajectory. There are going to be some ebbs and flows. The price isn't going to go up vertically. We're going to have some zigging and zagging, but all in all, I do believe that 15,500 was probably the bottom now, even though my target of 13,000 was never hit. A little bit unfortunate about that. It would have been good to buy some more Bitcoin there, but this is way dollar cost average, and definitely I grabbed some at the bottom. I was just keeping a little bit more on the side just in case we went a little bit lower. So next on the news, Bitcoin plunges as CFTC sues Binance over alleged regulatory violation. So in this article, they talk about, excuse me, they talk about how the price of Bitcoin is due to the CFTC suing CZ. This is CZ right here. He's the owner of Binance in regards to their major crackdown on the crypto exchange and its executives. So the price of Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, which is the most popular cryptocurrency, fell 4.4% as the news of the lawsuit spread. So this morning, one Bitcoin was valued at $40,500 Australian, not US dollars. Obviously, US dollars are currently at 27,000. And the CFTC is alleging that Binance, which is under the control of CZ, solicited and accepted orders for spot and derivatives transactions from customers in the US. And if you don't know, Binance is actually banned from the US. Well, they've got Binance US, but it's under a little bit more stringent regulations than just the Binance.com website. So it alleges that CZ and Binance took calculated, phased approach to increase the company's presence in the US, despite publicly stating that it would block or restrict customers from accessing its platform. And in the process, the CFTC alleges that the defendants ignored registration and regulatory requirements under US law. So the CZ, whose net worth is around $15.73 billion, employed a deliberate approach to attempt to avoid regulation, including by stating that Binance's headquarters was wherever he is located at any point in time. I think when you are valued at $15 billion, I think you can say whatever you like, but I understand currently in the current market why we're having so much crackdown. And the SEC is cracking down on cryptocurrencies, or stocks that obviously produce that increase in value. So I think right now what we would like to see is for things to calm down, but we're in this really crazy climate right now, not only politically, but also economically with all the banks sort of falling. So I think right now the US is scrambling to try and really sort of show its force, because right now it doesn't have a very good look worldwide. You've got the China and Russia partnership that's been spread all over. Well, depends where you're watching the news, but the important stuff is obviously being shown on YouTube. I'm going to show you one of the YouTube channels that we like to watch here at Breakout Solutions. It's an independent media channel that really covers the important news that are happening globally, and not just, cats stuck up in trees. Because if you're watching that type of stuff, you're not really increasing your knowledge, and knowledge is obviously power, especially when it comes to investment. So we'll move on from CZ, but I don't think this is going to continue. I think that this news aligned with obviously Bitcoin's rise from 19,500 to 29,000 in the space of 2 weeks. You're going to have some pullbacks. Yes, sometimes these news does create a little bit of fun, but all in all, we were overextended. It's time for a bit of a pullback, and I think it's just natural. All right, next we have Bitcoin is set to disrupt Africa's $85 billion financial system, and here's what you need to know. So it's close to becoming the currency of choice, moving money between African countries, and the reason because is So the wide-ranging report authored by CNBC's crypto reporter Mackenzie C. Garlos came 3 months after the conclusion of the inaugural African Bitcoin conference in Accra, Ghana, and went into detail on how Bitcoin is disrupting Africa's financial system. So an important player in the African Bitcoin story right now is Twitter founder Jack Dorsey and his Bitcoin-focused payment company Block Inc. Notably, Dorsey was among the presenters at the African Bitcoin conference, and he appeared to make a big impact according to the report. So he said, in countries where the vast majority of the population is unbanked, national currencies are no longer a safe store of value. Remittance comprise a hefty portion of GDP, and internal sanctions complicate connections to the global economy. A virtual currency that does not require an intermediary to approve transactions can be a vital lifeline for survival. So we've talked about this. We know that most of the Africans living in Africa are unbanked. It's very difficult for them to, even have identification to open up a bank account. Most of them don't have IDs or passports and so forth. But a way for them to have a bank account is to obviously get into cryptocurrency, and the safest cryptocurrency is obviously Bitcoin. So it would be amazing for some of these countries to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, like El Salvador did, but it's going to take some time because, especially Africa, being a poor continent, there is a lot of corruption, and that is something that's always going to be around. Whilst humankind is in existence, people will always do things to better their own back pocket. So hopefully Bitcoin does have a better foothold in Africa and in the African nations, and hopefully this is a great way for them to obviously continuously have commerce in those countries, but without without using their national currency, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, is probably devaluing at a more rapid rate than obviously what Bitcoin is. So I talked a little bit about before on one of the YouTube channels that I like to watch to get some, I guess you could say, non-biased news, but also a news that goes into a lot more detail about what's happening around the world: the war in China, the banks collapse, the economic crisis worldwide, inflation, etc., etc. Things that maybe your local news channel is just briefly going over. So Redacted, we love these guys. It's a shout out to them. I mean, they do have 1.82 million subscribers, so there's a lot of people that watch this channel and probably have the same mindset as a lot of people in our program. The great thing is about our Breakout Solutions community is we have like-minded people, and the same way that Christians go to a Catholic church and Protestants go there and so forth, religion is, in some way, people with the same set of values, and they like surrounding themselves with people with the same set of values or the same train of thought. We, as a business, we really like these guys because they have the same train of thought as us. We want to uncover the real truth of what's going on in the world, and sometimes mainstream media doesn't give you the full story. These guys give you the full story. They have independent journalists working for them, doing research. They're getting a lot of content out there, and some of the stuff that I've been watching lately, talking about the US economy on the brink of ruin, the Ukraine, obviously Russia war, and like what's really happening, AI, all that type of stuff. I definitely recommend you guys check them out because they're a great place to go. Now, talking about obviously war, it is very I wouldn't say it's unlikely, but there is a decent chance that China and US and also Russia might go into a war, because there is currently a power struggle economically with which currencies obviously are being traded worldwide. Everyone knows that the US dollar is one that's accepted not only in the US, but many, many poorer countries, because the US dollar is more stable than the local currency. But there seems to be a change of guard. And now we have BRICS, which is who's BRICS again? I always forget BRICS. It's Brazil, the Russians, we have India, we have China, and I think it's Saudi Arabia that make up BRICS. And they're going to start doing trading amongst themselves with the Chinese yuan. So they're going to be removing the US dollar as the main currency where they do their trading, and they're looking to push out the yuan. So that means the US now is a little bit on the back foot of, hey, they no longer want our currency. They don't want anything to do with us, and we're going to start trading amongst ourselves. So this is why the US, they haven't really been talking about that on their local news stations. This is why you need to watch people like Redacted, which are independent, news media group. So you can get the full story and what the implications are, not only financially, but psychologically. If you are the US, you're feeling like you're losing that power. You've had this power for so long, and there's nothing more dangerous than someone losing power, because they can do things that are quite erratic. Things that are quite erratic are obviously escalating or creating wars, because they're trying to get that power back from obviously people that they feel threatened by. And right now, the US are very threatened by China and the US. So watch this space, or watch Redacted, so you can be informed of what's happening globally. Now, what could potentially occur if we go to war? So I want to have a quick look at the gold chart. Now, gold has been trading for over 1,600 years, I believe, but the price chart that we do have, that the most accurate, really only started when there was the decoupling of the US dollar to gold, and that was in 1971. Now, before that, we can see that we had some large spikes, but it's not as beautiful as back here because this is when sort of computers and technology sort of took over and you have these nice sort of candles. But I really want you guys to focus on a couple of things. So the dates down here. So 1930s and also 1945. Now, 1930s was the start of the Great Depression. It was, a few years or nearly a decade after the First World War, which we also saw price of gold increase. But since it was still back to the US dollar, we don't see sort of large price increases like what we've seen back here since 1970s. And then once again, during the Second World War, we did see a bit of a price bump from in gold by about sort of $5, which is 15%. Not too big once again because it was backed by the US dollar. But since 1970s, you can see that obviously gold's gone on a crazy run. Now, because gold and Bitcoin have always seemed to be similar assets, a store of value and a safe haven. With all the turmoil going around worldwide, we can see that sort of gold has obviously had a decent climb from 1,600 over the past couple of months back up to around $2,000. So it's increased. We're looking at an increase of 25% in that short period of time because gold, as I said, is a safe haven for assets. But it's not really it's not divisible as easily. Obviously, you've got the gold bars and you can buy ounces of gold and so forth, but it's not really transportable. So if I want to give you some gold because maybe my currency's not doing too well, it's very difficult for me to give you a gold bar. It's heavy, it's clunky, I've got to drive it over to you. But there was a new form of currency created in 2008, 2009. That was Bitcoin, which is supposed to have a very similar makeup of gold. The only difference is we can continuously find gold, even though we're struggling right now to find gold. We are going to eventually find more and more gold because it's used in a lot of, using a lot of technology, jewelry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Bitcoin, the difference between gold, has a limited supply. Even though we're still mining Bitcoin and we're going to mine it till I think 2,140 years, so which is I'll be well dead by then. The thing is that's why we see more volatility in Bitcoin, because there is basically a price, there is a fixed supply, whereas gold, because there's no fixed supply, as soon as someone digs up and finds a whole lot of gold, the price of gold drops because obviously more supply is being found. But right now, because of all the turmoil occurring worldwide, we can see that obviously gold has obviously jumped up 25% in the last few months. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has doubled in price, but I think because now we're using more and more technology, people are becoming a little bit more knowledgeable of how to use Bitcoin. You don't need to buy a whole coin. You can buy fractions of a coin called Satoshis, et cetera, et cetera. And I think because we now like to take our wealth with us when we are traveling, we've got credit cards, et cetera, we understand that it's important for us to have assets that can go somewhere with us. If we move country, opening a new bank can be sometimes difficult and a pain in the bum. But obviously, if we employ cryptocurrencies, we can take our wealth with us. And this is why I think we're going to see a big growth in the cryptocurrency market and gold this year if we continuously have this turmoil between countries, but also with the economic climate that we've obviously been suffering with over the last few years. I also want to sort of compare that 2008, so there we are, 2008 to 2010, when we had the GFC. We can also see that when that when we were around that time, things were bad. We were obviously in a recession. There was a few banks collapsed in the US, and we can see that gold basically increased in value by 181%. So right now, a lot of people are saying that we're in the same. We're reading the same stories back in 2008. So we can only assume that the price of gold and cryptocurrencies and gold is probably going to increase quite rapidly because of what's happening. People are going to want to park their assets in a safe haven, and obviously they want to be able to transport their wealth and move to maybe countries that are not going to be involved in the war, maybe a little bit more accepting of cryptocurrencies like El Salvador. We're going to cover a topic a little bit later about El Salvador and what they're doing to obviously decrease taxes for innovative technologies. Let's just say that. All right, let's move on. Oh my God, Wasim's going to watch this back and you'll notice that I didn't do my banners. Apologies, Wasim, if you're watching. All right, first tweet is from Watcher Guru, and he talks about Hong Kong regulators to assist crypto firms with banking. Now, we've had Hong Kong in our storylines over the past few months about allowing and adopting and onboarding large whales with over $100,000 worth of capital into the crypto sphere. They're opening up some legalized derivatives trading platforms and so forth. So they're definitely increasing their thoughts on cryptocurrencies, the benefits of it, and how potentially they can obviously onboard the millions and billions of Chinese people. Because even though China doesn't have the best thought on cryptocurrencies, I think with Russia being very pro cryptocurrencies, because Putin obviously loaded up before the war, I think they might have a discussion amongst themselves, and Xi Jinping might actually, see the brighter side of why cryptocurrencies is going to be beneficial for maybe China to adopt, even though they like banning it, every second day or so. Next, there was this video by, Fox News. I should share this with you guys. I'm going to actually share this in the chat so you guys can check it out yourselves. It's a 4-minute video, but basically talks about the dollar is in rapid decline. The US only option might be to move onto the Bitcoin stand. Now, I want to play you a short section of this video, and this is something that Wasim has been talking about for quite some time. The narrative that's occurring right now with the financial crisis in the US, this is potentially a plan that has always been in place so they can start onboarding CBDC, so central bank digital currency. So let's just watch this small little clip, and please let me know if you're watching this, if you can actually hear this video. So this entire video just talks about how the shift from the US dollar to the Chinese yuan. We talked about this. So we talked about BRICS at the start of this. It's South Africa. So I thought it was Saudi Arabia. My apologies. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa now going to trade amongst themselves in the Chinese yuan. This is going to cause huge havoc in the US because they like to think that they're number one. And they, of course, are number one. But I think we're starting to see a bit of a collapse of the number one superpower and the US dollar. So we have also discussed that most currencies that especially are the token currency that is most traded worldwide usually only last between 250 and 300 years. Now, I think we're at 277 years whilst the US dollar has been sort of the mainstream dollar that we like to, trade in. But it seems like there's going to be a shift in power, and this is what's scaring the US. They're not talking about this a lot on local media stations. You really need to dive into some of the YouTube channels to find some of these articles, because this is sort of, this is being kept away from a lot of people's eyes. And they're talking about Trump being arrested and all that crappy type news where, dogs and cats are stuck up trees. And this is why you need to watch channels like Redacted so you guys can be informed and actually understand what is going on globally, because things are about to explode amongst China and the US. Last one is fiat in Venezuela is so worthless, people leave it on the streets. We've talked about obviously inflation and the what it's doing and causing around the world. And I found this article for the countries with the highest inflation in 2023. So obviously we have Venezuela right here at 1,198. Of course, like something's gone up that much, which is like an 11x. That means your $10 that you held, however long this has been going for, your $10 is now worth $1. So you can understand why there's just lots of bills on the floor, because it takes a whole pile of bills now to actually pay for, goods and services. So people are just littering their cash because it's worthless. If they had a $1 bill, that $1 bill is worth like 10 cents now. So, I'm sure if you collected all these funds, it'd probably be worth something, but it just shows you how these people just are now really upset that their dollar is worthless. So back to this list, we have Sudan, we have Lebanon, which we've talked about before, Syria, Suriname, Zimbabwe, Argentina, Turkey, Iran, Ethiopia. So we've got a few African countries. We've got Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Suriname. I'm assuming this could be in Africa. Syria is kind of on that border of Africa and Asia. Sudan, like we're talking, this is why it was really important at the start of today's, video. We talked about Bitcoin to disrupt Africa's financial system, because the biggest adopter of cryptocurrencies is Nigeria, and it's only growing. A lot of that area of northwest Africa is obviously pushing a little bit more towards digital currencies rather than the east. But hey, as long as one country starts, it's going to be a flow-on effect, because they still want to trade between themselves. Alrighty, let's move on. I see there is no sound on the video you played. I do apologize. If China, US go to war, what happens to AUD? That's a great question. Well, at the end of the day, I think, I don't know. I wasn't around then, but I could compare the Australian dollar to the US dollar to get some answers for you. Sorry, no sound yet, but just click that link that I just posted. And you can check out that video. Basically, she just stated that this could be employed by the US government to implement CBDCs into their network, so they can have more control on what people can spend their money on. So check it out, guys. All right, let's move on to the adoption highlights. So we have El Salvador, President Bukele to introduce bill that would eliminate taxes on technology innovation. So obviously they were the first country in 2021 to become the first nation to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. And he said, next week, I'll be sending a bill to Congress to eliminate all taxes, income, property, capital gains, and import tariffs on technology innovations such as software programming, coding, apps, and AI development, as well as computing and communications hardware manufacturing. However, this report says it's unclear yet if this measure will extend to Bitcoin applications, but El Salvador and its president are known for being Bitcoin friendly and being the first nation to make crypto legal tender. So this is pretty cool. I do know a lot of people starting to move to El Salvador. Wasim talked about it in some of our most recent live streams, where crime has decreased. They've decreased the retirement age. They've increased the pension, even if you haven't actually paid any pension. And this is all due to Bitcoin. And he recently posted something up on his Facebook comparing El Salvador to my native country, France, who's trying to increase the retirement age, decrease the pension. If you haven't been paying attention right now, the French are doing what the French love, and that is revolting and creating chaos in the streets. They are striking. We love a strike in France. We just love not working. And the people over there are very upset with what's happening and how the country is being managed. And it just shows you that, not saying that Bitcoin is the savior, but when we get a few more countries that adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, we will probably see a lot of correlation between those that are crypto-friendly hubs and those that are not. If we continue to see low crime, lower retirement age, higher pension wages for the countries that do adopt it, you are going to probably see a lot more countries, a lot more people ask their country, let's start adopting cryptocurrencies, because right now we're not seeing a way out of this financial mess that you, the government, have caused us. Now, when it comes to adoption, it's all about where and who can we use our cryptocurrencies with. So I found this awesome website on the top 20 big companies that accept Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies as payments. So the biggest ones are Wikipedia, Microsoft, and AT&T, but there are a few more. The latest one is obviously Burger King. We have KFC, we have Overstock, we have Subway, Twitch, Pizza Hut, the Miami Dolphins, the Dallas Mavericks, Virginia Galactic, Norwegian Air. Now, to add to here as well is the Perth baseball team. Even though they're quite small, they're in Australia, they love Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, so make sure you check them out. Norwegian Air, Namecheap, Cheap Air, Gift, Newegg, Internet Archive, the Pirate Bay, 4chan, Mega NZ, Amazon, but not directly, ExpressVPN, Benfica, Quizos, and AMC. So look, there's plenty of places that you can spend your crypto. It's only going to get bigger. And this is why right now that we're coming out of the bear market, every dip that we see in the market, and we've seen a bit of a dip over the last couple of days, is a great time to buy. Okay, these retracements, even though it's not a huge retracement, is a great opportunity. Every time I see well, me personally, every time I see at least 10% retracement, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin, right? Because it's seen as being a little bit cheaper than what it was, obviously, from the height that I did that retracement. But I always like 10%. If Bitcoin goes down 10%, buy some crypto and then move on one day. If it goes down a little bit more, buy some more. So I like to go in 10% increments. And right now, I did speak about this yesterday. I am eyeing out $25,350 just purely for the fact that it is the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders. I'd love for us to come back down here, but what may be difficult for us to break is this increase. Let me just remove this head and shoulders. Let me remove this fib retracement. We have this channel that Bitcoin's been trading in, and right now that channel, is acting as support. You can see that we tapped that support a few hours ago now. Let me go to the hourly. So about 8 to 10 hours ago, we tapped that that support, much like what we did here, and it was once upon a time a resistance back here. So this could have been the retracement, the end of the retracement, but hopefully we do see a little bit more lower price action. As I said, I'm looking for 25,300 as my next buying opportunity if we do break this support. But right now it looks like it is staying as support. We can see that the value area low acted as resistance. You can see right here this week. So we came down, hit the support line, which is that parallel channel, came up, hit the value area low, got rejected, and that's usually a sign that we're going to probably break down lower. So we're having a decent little candle here. We have had a pump of about $150 over the span of this last hour, but I am looking for lower prices, and I'd love to see 25,300 hit. Let me just check out this last comment: 5K Bitcoin or 10 other coins. I would say if you're looking for gains, probably 10 other coins rather than Bitcoin. But if you want to play it safe and you want to get good returns over the next 24 months, 100% Bitcoin. All right, guys, that is it for me. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully I did a good job filling in for Wasim, because you're no longer going to see me on these live streams. I'm just sticking to my TA videos on Monday and Wednesday. So if you want to join me in finding the next 100x altcoin, join me on tomorrow afternoon's live stream, 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'll be live checking out CoinMarketCap and trying to find those hidden gems that are going to make us some big bucks in the next 12 to 24 months. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Stay crypto.